Hey, welcome back to the National Defense. It's Randy Miller, and back with us again. Great veteran supporter and a guy that just cannot slow down, Jay Leno. Jay, how are you?
Good. Thanks for having me on. It's always an honor and a privilege to be here.
Hey, listen, nice setting there with the classic cars behind you. How many cars do you have?
Oh boy, you sound like my wife. It's about 201, something
Oh
like
my
that.
gosh. And how do you decide? How do you decide what to drive each day?
Well, I'm sure there are people with bigger problems. I mean, they're not. They're not all valuable. I mean, some are valuable cars, but some are just old stuff I like. Corvairs, my '55 Buick I've had for 40 years. Stuff just just clunkers and interesting stuff.
Yeah.
Cars that have some history.
A few clunkers. Well, talking about cars, listen, and this is something that you wouldn't say, and you don't go a long way to toot your own horn, but 2012, you auctioned off a Fiat 500, which was sold for $385,000. All the proceeds going to a charity that helps wounded war veterans recover. Thank you for that. Thank you for what you do for veterans. $385,000. Is that a good price for that car?
Yeah, it's way more than it's worth. That really goes to the people that made. I mean, they know what they're doing. They're making a donation, and that's just as simple. We've done a few of those actually. I think we got a bit more for another car. I can't remember what it was. We did a Corvette, and it's been a lot of fun. It's been a lot of fun.
That's cool.
Anytime you can help out the military, we've given cars to a lot of people. It's funny. Obviously, it's fun to give away stuff people need, but it's more fun to give away stuff people really want,
And can't get.
A funny one, when we had a young Army guy, and we gave him the Hellcat, the 7 horsepower Chrysler, and so he's got the car, right, and then he gets nailed going 100 and something with it, Oh, I had to call the judge and go, listen, veteran, and he just got back from we really had to a whole lot of things to get about that one. But it's pretty funny.
That's pretty cool. So now you've got a brand new venture here. You brought back You Bet Your Life,
Right.
which is basically, to me, another version of jaywalking that you used to do.
Yeah, that's basically what it was. That's basically what it was.
I mean, you're kind of messing with people. It's a great show. It's so funny to me, Jay, because when Johnny Carson retired from The Tonight Show, he famously never appeared on TV again. You can't stop.
Actually, he did a few shows.
Oh, did he?
Yeah, he did. I know he did a lot of stuff with, he was a great fan of astronomy and Carl Sagan.
Oh, right.
So he was on there, and I think he was on Letterman a couple of times. And he did things. He just wasn't real, hey, look at me about it,
Right. Well, but I mean, you just can't stop working. You've always worked. I mean, you got Jay's Garage. Now you got You Bet Your Life. You're still doing your stand up.
I like to work. I mean, it's fun. We get to do a lot of USO shows and stuff, and those are really great. That's really the most fun. It's so funny. The first time I was in Desert Storm, so we go there and we fly to the Middle East, and then we get in the helicopter. We go like 2 hours. I go, where's the show going to be? Oh, it's near Kuwait. Okay. So we land like in the desert, and there's like a bunch of guys sitting on the ground and a tank. And I said, well, where's the stage? Well, we're just standing on the tank. I said, oh, okay. So I stand on the tank, and I go, is there a microphone? No, just shout. Okay. All right. So I'm thinking, well, it's like 122 degrees or some crazy thing.
Right.
I just start shouting jokes, and I see these guys like just laughing. I go, and I realize, these guys haven't heard a new joke in like a year, So it was like the greatest audience. So I every time I talk, I could get me one of those Kuwaiti tank shows.
Yeah,
those are the best. Because I thought this is going to be sucky, that the guys would be like in a bad mood and it's hot. But no, they were great. I mean, it was the greatest thing ever.
That's funny. Oh, that's so good. Well, and it's interesting with You Bet Your Life, because the original host was Groucho Marx, and the other thing that you have in common with Groucho, besides being a comedian, is he actually guest hosted The Tonight Show, at least for a week. that I
Yeah, I
found.
guess that's right. I guess he did. Yeah, that's right. Now that you mention it.
Yeah, and it was I wouldn't say it was a polished performance there. They had about 22 guests on that show, but it's really interesting to go back and watch something like that. Were you a Groucho fan?
Yeah, I was a big fan of Groucho, actually. I did. Because, I always like comedians that were just regular looking people, but were funny. I was never a big fan of, throw a pie and put on a wacky costume kind of stuff.
Right.
Just people who just appeared to be normal, like Jack Benny or Bob Newhart, and were just really funny to talk to.
I know we just lost Mort Saul, and
probably the greatest, certainly the first real political comedian of any generation. Really, he's really one that set the standard for everybody else that was doing political comedy because it was smart. It was, you had to know the facts. It wasn't just, two guys going to a bar kind of stuff.
Right.
No, very clever. I knew Mort, actually. He was a real wit, as they say. I remember I went to see him years ago. God, it's almost 50 years ago. I was a kid, and he had sort of given up comedy, and he was doing a talk on the Kennedy assassination. He had charts and graphs and
oh wow,
and it was a little sad because people crowded in to see him, and when they realized he wasn't being funny, I would say there was probably less than half the audience there by the end. But he took it very seriously,
Well, and it's funny with stand-ups, I think, especially, Jay. I remember watching George Carlin on stage one time in Kansas City, and he comes on, and somebody in the middle of his act throws a giant condom on stage. And you think, oh, it's George Carlin. He's going to, he stops the show. He stops the show and addresses the audience as un-Carlin-like as anybody's ever seen and said, this is what I do for a living, and if you don't want to participate in what I've created, then I'm going to stop doing this. And it was like the teacher calling you down.
Right. Well, I guess that's intimidating. That's intimidating when a giant condom.
Yeah, it was.
Okay, who's the guy?
In my opinion, it was a giant condom.
Oh, I see. Okay.
So, are you looking for contestants for You Bet Your Life?
Yeah, that's sort of the fun part too. You just go to youbetyourlife.com. We love having the veterans on. People love the veterans.
Yeah. I want to be on You Bet Your Life.
Well, yeah, we'll get you on there. There's no problem.
Because it's not like your typical game show, because there is a lot of interaction between the contestants, and that's got to be fun for you, huh?
Well, the fun part is you bring two complete strangers together, and they have to work together to win the money. And the premise of the show is no politics at all.
Right.
And it's
that's a different concept.
Well, it's amazing how well people get along when you take politics out of the equation. Everything you do now is politics. You try to watch a comedy special on Netflix. Oh, if the comedian says something, are you for this? Are you against this? Can you just enjoy the show? No, you can't anymore. Everything has got to be. But when you take that out, you see people who, I see people all the time. I'm a real car guy, so I like to work on cars, talk about cars. And I know I probably wouldn't agree politically with a lot of friends I make, but that's okay because we don't discuss it. We don't go there.
Right.
But you realize, we need to sort of deal with people who are different than us in this country. The idea that you only get along with people who agree with you. I have a lot of friends who I do not agree with on any of these things. But they're decent men and women. They're good people. They raise families. They have jobs. Some are Christians, some are not, some whatever it might be. And it doesn't make any difference. You can have a difference of opinion without everything going to all this hate and anger all the time.
Yeah, it's a great point. That's a point we always try to make on this show. We don't care how you feel about the administration. We care about politics. We all have to agree to support the troops, and that's the other foundation, I think, in the military, because if you're trying to find somebody in the foxhole that has the same opinions as you to back you up, you don't care. They're there. That's whatever they are, they're there.
Yeah, that was great. I was fortunate. I had dinner with General Mealy at his house a while back, and that was a real honor because he's a fellow Massachusetts guy like me. And, it's funny to be at the age where all these guys are younger than me now, which when I was
all the brass.
when I was a kid, presidents were always older than you. So you could say, well, it was a different time then, or whatever it might be. But now they go, oh, that guy's younger than me. Well, that's interesting, But he was a fascinating gentleman. That was a real honor to meet him and sit and have dinner.
Yeah, well, you've done so much for the military over the years, and just want to thank you for that. All the USO tours.
It's not like you've done a lot.
Oh yeah, you have. Yes, you have. Why don't you do? You Bet Your Life from a base? Take it to a base.
Well, that's hard to do because it's the way you do a show like this is you got to bang out 6 a day. We do 181 shows in 12 weeks. So
wow, you tape 6 shows a day.
6 shows a day because with expenses and unions and all that kind of stuff now.
Right.
That's what you got to do just to break even. So the idea of taking it somewhere is a little tricky.
Gotcha.
I wouldn't rule it out. It's more fun to bring the veterans to the show.
Right. And a cool experience for them too.
Once you're on the air, people don't really know you're at a military base because you have You Bet Your Life logos and stuff everywhere. But it's cost you minimum $1 million at least to go. So it's not that kind of
Wow. Okay, well let's throw out the base idea. Just bring the veterans on the show. I like that idea.
Yeah, we enjoy doing that, and I mean, I see a real respect with veterans. It was different than when I was a kid. I grew up during the Vietnam era.
Oh yeah,
Vietnam vet, and my uncle John, he was the guy that during World War II, he ran the USO shows in the Hollywood base, and he would get all the movie stars and everything like that. So it's a little bit of history there. So it makes it fun to do. But
I was talking to we had Tom Hanks on the show not too long ago, and he was championing the new movie museum that opened up in Hollywood. Right. And I said, it'd be kind of cool to have a night where you have a military appreciation night and you bring veterans in, and he loved that idea. He said, oh my gosh, we can do a symposium. We could have all kinds of war movies, and so that's something that might happen. But I love that, and everybody that we have on the show, celebrity entertainer wise, it's so fascinating to me that how much they support the troops. I'm not surprised by that, but I think a lot of people are.
I don't know why they would be. I mean, we live in a world.
Well, because you never get a chance to talk about it. You're not going to go on the Tonight Show and talk about your support for the troops.
Well, 1% owns the country. The other 1% fights for the country, and the other 98% will just walk around and bump into each other, and that's really the world we live in now. We live in a world now where the country is so prosperous, you can have wars going on with no sacrifice from the public. I'm old, and my parents were old when I was born, so they grew up during World War II, and it was victory gardens and
sure.
And metal drives, and my mom would try to find what pots she could afford to be without so they could melt them down for the So everybody was involved in the war effort. Everybody felt it. Now you have a situation where wars go on and people they walk around, what war? What are you talking about?
Right.
Like Afghanistan went for 20 years.
Right.
20 years. But I wouldn't think, if you said to people, we're at war right now, they would go, well, no, of course not.
Right. Because you don't feel it. You don't.
There's no personal sacrifice from every American. So consequently, they don't realize, what do you mean a soldier is there doing what? Yes, there's a war. For what? I mean, I was at Bagram Air Force Base, and that was, you're standing on stage and, you'd feel the ground shake from, because they would just send these kind of bombs, just all land somewhere on the base, somewhere around it. Luckily, nobody was killed when we were there.
Right.
But you could hear it, you could feel it, and you say, "Yeah, this is the reality of it. This is
the real deal." Yeah. We're talking to Jay Leno here in the National Defense. Jay, thank you for your time. Thank you for what you're doing. We have a brand new feature on the show called "Got Your Six." 6 rapid fire questions for Jay Leno. You ready?
Go ahead.
All right. Who is the funniest person you've ever met?
Oh, the funniest person I've ever met. Robin Williams is pretty funny.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Robin was a good friend. Yeah. He was so manic. But, I'd probably have to go Rodney Dangerfield in terms of, because Rodney was a joker. Oh, Jay, I tell you. And he just found out those, it's Rodney and Robin. Robin was different because, hey, me Lord, Robin bounced off the wall. But Rodney had jokes. He would just
right.
I would, and since this is Rodney's 100th birthday coming up in a few weeks,
oh wow,
I would probably go with. I'll tell you a funny Rodney story.
Yeah,
I had it's not funny the story, but I had Rodney on the Tonight Show back in 2004, and he was doing his act, and I noticed he was sweating a lot, and he was off because I know all his hey, how are you, and everything was off by a fraction, not enough. If you didn't know Rodney, you wouldn't know he was off, and I said to my producer while he's doing it, I said, I think Rodney's having a stroke. Call the paramedics, So Rodney came, he did his stand up, and then he sat down and we talked and he was fine. Okay. And then, he moved on. The next guest came out. And then the show was over. And by that time, the paramedics showed up and Rodney was in his dressing room and they took him to the hospital because he did have a stroke.
Oh, wow.
Okay. So then he lasted a little bit longer after that. But then I got a call from his wife, Joan. She said, oh, Rodney's in a coma. Okay. So I go to see Rodney, and Rodney's lying there, and she says, Jay, Rodney can't respond, but I know he can hear us. I think he can hear us. So she said to me, Jay, put your finger in Rodney's hand. And I did. And she said to Rodney, Rodney, if you know it's Jay, see if you can squeeze his finger. So I felt a slight squeeze, and I leaned over and I said to Rodney, Rodney, that's not my finger. And he did one of these. I mean, and Joan went, he moved, and it got a huge laugh, and I just felt I made Rodney laugh one more time before.
Oh, that's fantastic.
But it was really fun. It was one of those stories that if you're not a comic, people might think it's kind of a rude story, but
I love it. I love it.
Rodney liked it because he actually.
Oh my gosh. Is there one car you'd love to have but don't?
No, something, I buy the story as much as I buy the car.
Sure.
Every car, you see something, and if it's, for example, I don't buy anything German between 33 and 45. I don't like the Nazi implications of the car. I don't like the cars that were built with slave labor. I don't care how exotic or how rare they were. Plus, I don't like, well, for obvious reasons.
Sure.
So I try to, so you try to find stuff that have some meaning. So a lot of times I'll look at a car and it's not something I'm interested in, but then I realize, oh, there's like a great story attached to this thing, I got a car, a woman called me, and it was a veteran. Her dad was a Korean War veteran, and he had a 49 Plymouth station wagon that he restored. He got it after Korea, and he kept it his whole life. And she wanted to give me the car, so I said, can we make a donation to the Korean War veterans, like the value of the car in your dad's name? And she liked that idea.
Oh yeah.
We did that, and they put a plaque up, and they got a nice card, and the car's here in the garage, and we have a picture of him standing next to the car, and he loved it. It was just a 6-cylinder 49 Dodge wagon, 3 on the tree, just a good old girl, just one of those kind of get around cars.
Right.
And it was fun. And I keep his picture there. And whenever people come around, especially veterans, I show them the picture of him, with his medals. And I think he got a Purple Heart in Korea and stuff.
Oh, wow.
And it was the love of his life. He spent his whole life trying to find all the period accessories, like the visors and,
right.
All that kind of stuff. So, so that makes it kind of special.
Oh, boy, and it speaks volumes that they wanted you to have it. I mean that.
I was very honored by that. And it's still here, and whenever the family comes by, the grandkids want to see their great grandpa's car. It's here.
That's cool. When is the last time your wife Mavis made you laugh?
Oh, every day. Actually, this happened a couple of nights ago. It's like 2:00 in the morning. And my wife goes, honey, I go, what? She just says, I just want to tell you I love you. And I said, you're having a nightmare. Go back. I thought that was the funniest thing. You're just having a nightmare. Go back to bed.
Right. The last time you got heckled at a comedy club.
Oh,
nobody heckles Jay Leno anymore.
no, you do. Well, you get, it's interesting. I don't do the kind of act that requires heckling.
Right.
It's not that kind of thing. Hey, you, hey, Four Eyes. It's not that kind of show.
Right.
But I mean, the trick to dealing with hecklers is not to go for the throat. If there's a big fat guy in the front row and he's giving me a hard time, I'll make fun of his tie.
Yeah.
Or I'll do something else. And you see the guy will go, oh, he's not going for the, I'm not going.
Right.
Or I'll say, sir, what is your heckle about? What do you want? And then of course they trip over themselves.
Right.
So, I mean, there's a trick to it. It's not difficult, but I always give the heckler more respect than he gives me, because
that's pretty good.
The crowd thinks is a crowd. Like if you go after a heckler and attack him, then the crowd sides with the heckler. Oh, you can't take it.
Yeah.
But if you roll with the guy and then try to engage him, they're like, oh, he's giving the guy a chance, and oh, this guy's hanging himself. He's
right. Oh my gosh, Andrew Dice Clay. I saw him at the Improv in L.A. 10 years ago, and it was an unadvertised appearance, and he was there. There were about maybe 10 people in the audience, and a Chinese family. Ooh, that didn't last long.
Yeah.
I mean, they left pretty quickly.
Yeah, which is sad. I don't.
Yeah. Hey, Jay, you went to college in Boston. Have you ever had a Wahlburger?
Oh yeah, I know those guys. Yeah, I know Donnie and those guys. Yeah. It's a fine hamburger. Yeah. It's a fast food hamburger. It's good. It's good.
Right.
It's a good chance.
And of course, you graduated from Emerson, as well as Doug Herzog, former president of MTV. What kind of music does Jay Leno rock out to?
Well, I grew up in the ’60s, so I tend to be an oldies guy. Like, I'm a big Sam Cooke fan.
Oh yeah.
Not so much modern stuff. I'm mostly an oldies guy for the most part. Yeah.
I mean, it matches the Cars, right?
Exactly.
Jay, thank you for your time, man. It's always great to have you on.
Thanks for having me on. It's a real honor. Any chance you get to meet with veterans. When I went to Bagram Air Force Base, it was fascinating because the average age was 19.
Yeah.
And I said to myself, man, I've lived all these years and done all these things. And some of these kids aren't going to be coming home, and the fact that they've made this sacrifice. And when I would see young women, girls, 19, they're still teenagers,
yeah.
4'1" with a giant gun, you go,
right.
This looks like your kid's sister, man. My kid's sister would be like 60, but I mean, it was just, it's really amazing. And you're talking to young people that were born after 9/11.
Right.
That to them, 9/11 is Pearl Harbor. To me, the last thing was Pearl Harbor. That was always, mind you, where were your parents at Pearl Harbor, all that kind of stuff. Or when Kennedy was assassinated. And then, it keeps moving forward. And this is why, when I went to school, they would say, this generation will never see an attack like Pearl Harbor because we're prepared and this will never, but you have to be ever vigilant. It can happen at any time. And that's why you need a strong military and even a volunteer military. These young men and women that volunteer, right. I mean, it's unbelievable to me. I think it's obviously the ultimate sacrifice. So anything we can do to help, I did not serve, my brother did. And we had a lot of people in the family, got a couple of West Pointers, but I didn't. So I like to feel that, okay, maybe I can do something by doing whatever it is I do. And that seems to help. So.
Well, and it's amazing to think that the kids that are volunteering today have always been at war. I mean, it's 20 years in Afghanistan, and so you think about that they know that there's a possibility that there's going to be a war because yeah.
The idea that we always hear about the greatest generation, and it was a great generation, but you realize everybody that serves is the greatest generation.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, it was Pat Tillman. Here's a kid who gave up a lucrative football career to join the military because he was so moved by what happened and died under tragic circumstances.
Yep.
And you realize, oh, you know, it isn't always like a movie a week. It doesn't always turn out great.
Right.
So that's why you have to remember and honor those that allowed us to do what it is we do, you know? So it really is an honor to be able to do that.
I mean, it's you bet your life. I mean, pretty much.
Yeah, that's the real game.
Yeah, right. Jay, thank you so much, man. It's great to talk to you.
I appreciate you taking the time, and God bless our men and women.
Thank you.